Good morning, Texoma. I'm Ashley Fitzwater. Thanks for joining us this morning on this special drought edition of Inside Texoma. For the next half hour, we're taking a realistic look at our drought situation now and in the future. To start, we're looking at what's next for Texoma and what can be done to conserve water.
What we're counting on is some rain.
I don't think there's going to be a stage 6.
There's not a lot of quick turnaround options.
It does not matter who you ask. The drought continues, and there are no easy options unless it rains. Stage 5 is just about as far as most restrictions can go.
We feel like, as far as the discretionary water is concerned, we've done about all we can and keep people in the city, going.
There are still a few businesses that could see further restrictions should lake levels keep dropping.
When the combined lakes of Kickapoo and Arrowhead reach 20%, car washes are shut off totally.
Right. The only way car washes could stay open is if they could find a source of water other than city water. One thing that could keep us away from a stage 6, besides rain, is the temporary water reuse project. The consensus is that project will make a big difference in where our water comes from.
It's about all we can do at this point. It's 5 million gallons a day will be a third of our supply or our demand. On paper, it's going to have a substantial impact on the extending the supply of the lakes.
Wichita Falls Utilities Operations Manager Daniel Nix agrees.
The reuse project is a big relief. Obviously, it's going to supplant what we're taking out of the lakes, hopefully make those lakes last a lot longer.
Nix also said the reuse project will give the city other options when it comes to processing all the water possible if the levels do not rise, and that would include using Lake Kemp. Wichita Falls has rights to the last 50,000 acre feet. That's about 18 billion gallons of water. But at that level, the salt-filled water is not easy to treat and would require the city to make some changes.
We've cut it off for the last 6 or 8 months because we can't treat it. It's too salty. Even with the MFRO plant, we can't treat it down enough and blend it back with the Arrowhead and Kickapoo water where we can't get hardly any yield out of it. But if worst comes to worst, we may have to do something.
Using Lake Kemp water could also jeopardize the largest power plant in Texoma.
You've got a 250 megawatt power plant that in the next year could be out of water and out of business.
That AEP coal plant uses a lot of water to turn its turbines and produce that power. That water comes from Lake Kemp, and the plant's owners are one of the groups that have given money to the cloud seeding efforts in the falls in hopes that more rain will fall on Lake Kemp. Another big water-using industry that was left out of Stage 5 restrictions is the restaurant business. They saw big restrictions when the city went into Stage 3.
There's not much more to do, yeah. But, other than just continue to pay attention and be diligent on a daily basis.
Luby's Cafeteria in Wichita Falls is one of many restaurants that has looked into saving water by using paper goods. It was a suggestion that the North Texas Restaurant Association made. Brian Press told us that just buying paper plates would run around $4,000 a month. And factoring in water bill savings and some other factors, the cost comes down to about $3,000, all to save less water than the average 2 homes would use in a month.
To spend $3,000 for a household and a half worth of water. But if it's got to be done, it's got to be done. Yeah, we'll do our part.
Another Wichita Falls-based company is working to save a large amount of water that could make a difference in a possible Stage 6.
We've got a big project going with PPG right now to conserve 200,000 gallons a day.
That project is partially funded by the city of Wichita Falls and would bring gray water to PPG, and it was the company's idea. Daniel Nix sees them as an example we can all follow.
When you have a major industry like that, that's a international industry, and they say, you know what, we care, we want to stay here, we're going to do what it takes. That's the message that needs to be sent. We're all in this together, and it's going to take all of us doing it.
That was Chris Horgan reporting. Now, Texoma, to answer your questions, we recently sat down with 3 representatives from the city of Wichita Falls for a special Stage 5 Drought Watch Catastrophe interview. Here's another look at what they had to say. We have 3 representatives joining us from the city of Wichita Falls. City Manager Darren Leiker will join us in just a little bit, but right now we have Russell Schreiber and also Mr. Daniel Nix.
And thank you for being here, guys. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Mr. Schreiber is the Director of Public Works in Wichita Falls, Public Works Department. Mr. Nix, the Public Works Operation Manager. Mr. Leiker, as we mentioned, the City Manager. And again, thanks you guys for taking time out. We want to get started by talking a little bit about the Stage 5 drought catastrophe. And first and foremost, when are you expecting to enact drought or to enact Stage 5?
Well, Chris, it's the current lake levels are 25.2, and we would expect them to drop below 25%, which is the Stage 5 trigger point, likely next week, probably Monday, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday of next week. So they're looming. They're likely to be enacted fairly quickly.
They're on the way for sure.
I know the next question is, why didn't the city lower the number of units that customers are actually allowed to use for now?
Well, actually, we did look at that when we were developing the Stage 5 restrictions. And of course, we have a symmetry with the 10 units in our billing plan. And so we made the decision not to complicate things and just keep it with the 10 unit increments that we have.
A lot of people were not very happy about that, by the way. That was a big, when Stage 5 first came out, a lot of people on April 15th were not thrilled at the fact that they felt they could do more with that, and I know that was a little bit of a sticking point. Let's talk about restaurants for a second. Okay. A lot of people don't feel Stage 5 may go far enough with restaurants, and I know the Water Resources Committee talked to restaurants and did a lot of work with them. Was it ever suggested that restaurants go to paper and plastic instead of using dishes and silverware that they have to wash all the time?
Absolutely. The Water Resources Committee did look at that. They looked at closing them additional days or starting to close them days. And we did discuss that with the Restaurant Association. And they are voluntarily going to switch over to paper and plastic to help out. And they've been talking about using bottled water instead of tap water.
So making an effort there, Russell.
Right. And there's also some issues that would have to be overcome. For example, some restaurants are required by their corporate headquarters to use or aren't allowed to use paper or plastic goods. Others, if you walk into a steakhouse, it's going to be hard to serve a steak on a paper plate, that type of thing. So there's some issues there that would have to be overcome by the restaurant owners, and we've talked to them about it. As Daniel said, we met with them before Stage 5 restrictions were developed. And we do expect a lot of those restaurants to comply where they can and switch to the paper and plastic goods.
You had mentioned bottled water. Is that something you've thought about, like making them serve only bottled water at restaurants?
We've talked to them about that, and of course there is a cost associated with that. And it is something that definitely could be looked at in the future if we get to further restrictions and get further into businesses.
We want to change gears right now and go to the water reuse project. And really, what's the holdup in Austin, and how long do you think we're going to have to wait?
Well, the city and TCEQ, when you say Austin, you're referencing TCEQ. That regulatory agency and the city, we want to make sure that we get everything exactly right with this project. We want to make sure that we've crossed all the I's, dotted all the T's, so to speak. They've asked us or required us to do some additional testing, which we are set up to do. Actually, we're going to begin this week. In order to generate some additional data, they want us to add data. I don't want to say fill holes, but there's like frequency of data of some data points. They want to see more of those data points. So that's what we're going to do the next 30 days. While we're operating or generating the additional data, we're also going to be operating the facility as if we were under normal operating conditions. The standard operating procedures, we're going to be operating under those. The monitoring plan, which will be required for full-scale operation, we'll also be using that. That'll give us a great opportunity to train our operators at the plant to make sure that everyone's familiar with the process, that we don't drop the ball somewhere along the way. While it's not a total waste of time. We can train our operators while we're gathering the additional data.
Let's talk about the fact that a lot of people have said this is water that is from the toilet, it's sewer water, it's bad stuff, but you're treating it, we all know that, and the bottom line is instead of just letting it go down to let someone else use, we're actually bringing it back.
That's right. That's right. This water is already being used by everybody that's drinking water out of Lake Texoma. And it's the way it's been for centuries. Wastewater treatment plants discharge to a stream or a river. That water flows downstream, and people downstream pick it up and use it for drinking water. In this case, we're just having to recapture that water before we release it back into the environment and for someone else to use, and utilizing it for our own needs.
What is the city doing to ease people's minds, you think?
Well, we have a education program. We have the video on the city's website. We're here today talking about it. You know, the simple fact is when the water's treated, we're actually treating it 4 times. It will be 100% safe to drink. We would not ever even consider putting a water into the system that was not safe to drink. You know, I don't know how we get people past the yuck factor, but you know, myself, Daniel, city manager, everyone involved with this project will also be drinking that water. So it's going to be perfectly safe to drink.
We want to talk about the water supply, and is there a point, do you think, that the city would have to stop selling water to outside cities?
Well, we have contracts with various outside municipalities. Wichita Falls is really kind of a regional water supplier. And under Texas water law, once you have a contract with someone, you cannot stop serving them water. So what we can do is we can require them to restrict at the same percentage that we ask the citizens of Wichita Falls to. But we can't go to those municipalities and say, you can't get water from us anymore.
Cutting them off is not an option then.
Cutting them off is not an option according to Texas law.
Okay.
Wow, that's good to know right there. All right.
Still ahead, we're asking about a sore subject for many in Wichita Falls. Some residents are demanding Castaway Cove be closed while we suffer through this drought. Hear why the park will open as planned and what changes it's making to help conserve water. Welcome back to our special drought edition of Inside Texoma. It's time now to take an in-depth look at the controversial issue of Castaway Cove and why it will be opening this season. I am joined now with Darren Leiker. He is the city manager for Wichita Falls. So, Mr. Leiker, we of course want to thank you for being here with us.
Sure thing.
And of course, we cannot ignore a topic that's really become an emotional one for a lot of people. We are talking about Castaway Cove, and we want to know why the city is choosing to open the park this year.
Well, Ashley, you mentioned it was an emotional issue for a lot of people, and we can certainly understand that. I think it's important, though, for folks to understand that in opening Castaway Cove or any other public or private pool in Wichita Falls, we are complying with absolutely all of the Stage 5 water restrictions. So we're not making any special rules for the water park. Secondly, I would want to tell folks that we will not use any city potable water to operate that water park at all. Even though it's a very low water user, we are not using any city water. What we're going to do is bring in outside water from a private water well that cannot be used in the city's potable system to operate that water park. So we were facing a decision of not opening the water park and potentially losing up to $300,000 a year because we still have fixed costs, operational costs, whether the park is open to the public or not, or buying this outside water that's not potable, that can't be used in our potable system, for about $70,000, and probably still making a profit in the water park and providing a place for 80,000 people to go in the summer. So again, we're complying with all the restrictions, and we're not using any city water, and it's no different than if you have a backyard pool or the YMCA's outdoor pool. They can do the very same thing.
And I understand, even though it's not the city's water, do you feel that the park is doing different things to conserve water? What are they doing?
Absolutely, we are. Of course, we don't water any outdoor irrigation or outdoor landscaping, rather, with irrigation. We've also recycled, we've started to recycle that water more so that we use less water. So we're doing things like that to make sure that we really clamp down on the water that we do use.
And I know, again, it does seem that the park is a real sore spot for a lot of people out there. So why do you think, or why continue to operate the park even though there's so much negative feedback? Does it kind of go back to what you said at the beginning?
Yes, and I think what the city council and staff did was back away from the emotional side of it and look at it from a logical business standpoint. Whether you use the water park or not, you are paying, or potentially could pay, if we have an operating loss at that water park. All the taxpayers are essentially shareholders or stockholders in that water park that we operate as a business. So if you stand back away from the emotional side of it and say, look, we're not using any city water. We have a choice here. We can either lose $300,000 and potentially the general fund property tax fund would have to make that up, or we can buy an outside water source and not lose that money. You know, it makes logical sense to do what we're planning to do. You know, people talk about the water park using a lot of water. The water park will use on an average day through evaporation about 45 seconds worth of the city's water demand. But again, we're not using city water.
Right.
We're using outside water.
And does that start stage 5, or is that already being put into place?
Well, that will certainly be put into place before the park opens.
Okay. Well, we are going to change gears a bit. We want you to have a listen to what one resident says the drought is actually doing to her livelihood.
Well, we're beekeepers, so it's killing our bees, so we're not doing very well this year. We've lost a lot of hives over the last 2 years. We're losing money. We're losing a lot of money.
It's of course tough to hear that. So what advice do you have for people who really rely on water to earn their living?
First of all, we certainly empathize with her and any of the businesses in the region, in the community that's being impacted by this drought. We certainly understand. We would just hope that businesses take measures to conserve as much water as they can and possibly look at other alternatives. For example, we have some car washes in town that have brought in tanks where they'll be bringing in well water or water from an outside source so they could continue to operate on the days that the city restricts them. So that's an example of, I think, businesses that are really coming up with a contingency plan, if you will, because none of us knew we would be in this drought as long as we have, and none of us are sure when we'll get out of this drought.
Well, you know, Shepherd Air Force Base is a big part of this community, and is there a fear that the drought situation could actually cause Wichita Falls to lose Shepherd Air Force Base?
Well, actually, I want to address a rumor that's been floating around town that Shepherd has already decided they're going to close or they're going to move missions elsewhere because of the drought. I can tell you emphatically that that's a rumor. We are in close contact with the base leadership on a regular basis. But I can also tell you that they are making plans, as we would all expect a military Air Force base or a military base to do, should the drought continue to worsen. They do not want to take the risk, worst case scenario, to disrupt the training pipeline of the United States Air Force.
Sure.
So they're making plans. But I can tell you that we're in constant contact with them, and there's no imminent plans for them to close or to move missions. And they're also doing a great job conserving water, and we're working with them on a regular basis to even do more.
All right. Well, Mr. Like, we appreciate your time and, of course, your honesty. So thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you.
Coming up, we get personal with city leaders asking what this drought is doing to morale, and they get candid about what they want you to know. Welcome back to our special drought edition of Inside Texoma. Residents have no reservations about expressing their feelings on the drought. We sat down with city leaders to get their feelings on the topic and how they address citizen concerns.
I think the city has done a really good job of handling the drought.
A part of me wants to say they've done it good, the other part wants to say no.
We have considered moving away, but financially we're going to stay here for now.
Well, I used to live on the lake, now I live on the lake bed. If I were retirement age, we wouldn't have already moved away.
I'm proud of our city for being proactive. The cloud seeding is just very forward thinking, and the pipeline to recirculate our water, they're doing something.
Welcome back to our special Drought Watch broadcast. There is no question that people have the opinions on the drought. We just heard several of them right there, and what the city is doing or not doing in their opinion to ease it. And joining us again, Russell Schreiber, Darren Leiker, Daniel Nix. And how does it make you guys feel, and you can each answer this, when you hear people saying negative things about the city's efforts here? It's got to be tough to hear.
Well, Chris, it's understandable. Look, everyone's frustrated. We're frustrated. Our citizens are frustrated. So as I said, it's understandable. You know, we appreciate all the comments and all the feedback that we get. And we would just ask that folks try to stay informed on what we're doing and why we're doing things. Come to city council meetings, follow us on social media sites, our website, and things like that, because we really are working tirelessly to get through this drought.
Russell, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, that's the main thing is we have a lot of people call and ask questions, and we easily answer them by saying, you know, yeah, we've already looked at that. We've thought of that. And as Darren said, we think of this stuff 24/7, Chris. This is always on our mind, and we can appreciate people's concerns. We live here as well. We're just as concerned as everyone else. And if you can, as Darren said, stay informed. You know, if you have a question, don't hesitate to call us and find out, or find out through the social media, through the city's website, that type of thing. And you know, just stay informed if you can.
Sure, Daniel, something.
It's understandable. Doesn't bother me at all. I would encourage people, if they have questions, to definitely give us a call, and we can allay those fears and educate them on what we're doing and how we're doing it.
You guys have done a great job, by the way, reaching out to the media and letting us help you tell these stories, because it seems every day we've got Drought Watch coverage and we've stayed on it. Now, what would you like everybody to know? If there's one thing you could tell someone about the drought as far as the education here, what's that one thing?
Well, for me, I will reiterate that I would want folks to know that we're working 24 hours a day practically to make sure that we do not run out of water. And I personally don't believe that we will run out of water. I think the community has done a great job conserving water, and coupling that with our direct potable reuse project and some other things we're doing, we'll get through this drought. And I would just ask folks that if they do have questions or concerns about what we're doing or maybe what we're not doing, to call us, to email us, or to stop by, and we'll be happy to take whatever time is necessary to give them the information they need.
We have even more to discuss straight ahead. We'll talk about what the future holds for Wichita Falls if this drought doesn't get under control after the break on Inside Texoma. Welcome back to our special drought edition of Inside Texoma. Many residents are concerned about what's next if the drought continues to get even worse.
Feel awful bad like everybody else. You got bad situation.
Well, I used to live on the lake. Now I live on the lake bed.
It's going to rain someday. It's got to rain someday. And so I just refuse to go around just low and negative and pessimistic.
Well, we're all hoping it'll rain someday, and someday soon. We're back with city representatives to talk about our drought situation.
That's right. Stage 5 drought catastrophe could be triggered any day now, but people want to know what plans are in the works if this drought turns into a real emergency. So what, if any, emergency plans are being made?
Actually, the city has already met with the state and FEMA representatives to see if there's what kind of assistance could be provided out there. And quite frankly, there's not a lot. We've done some preliminary modeling of our reservoirs to what we call a conditional reliability assessment. We know if we had 2011 conditions again, and if we were to, and as long as we keep our conservation efforts in place, we've got enough water to last us at least 2 years, probably longer. And we're always looking for ideas to shore up our supply. We will likely be preparing a water management long-range plan in the very near future. We've got a lot of ideas that some people may have heard me talk about at town hall meetings and things like that to find alternate sources. There's just not a lot close by that we can lay our hands on in a real quick manner. But rest assured, we're looking all the time, and we will try to find any method available to shore up our supply.
Let me ask you this: after the last drought we had, water restrictions for year-round changed. We adopted new ordinances that forced people to change the way they water their lawns and stuff like that. Having this severe drought that we've been in, are we looking at changing some of those ordinances again and maybe restricting it even further for a year-round, even when we're out of a drought?
The Water Resources Committee has expressed a desire to do just that. But as we're going into the drought, obviously, they're focusing on restrictions that help us now. Yeah. And as we start to come out of the drought, they'll start to recommend those changes to the drought plan. So when we are back up to 100%, you will have conservation measures in place.
Even earlier, as
Even
he was
earlier.
saying, just like we did the last time we had a drought.
Right.
So,
and I think people's watering habits and their habits for water use will change after this drought. We saw this a pretty substantial change after the 2000 drought. We think we'll see those same types of habits, change again. People will figure out that they likely don't need to water their lawn 4 days a week. They can get by with a day and a half or 2 days a week, that type of thing.
we want to thank you again for joining us. We know your time's important, and we appreciate you spending it with us this morning for an honest talk about the drought. We hope you have a great day, Texoma. As always, we'll see you back here next Sunday morning for another look inside Texoma.